The one everyone feared. There was once a place where the mountains met the sea. Every evening, as the golden sun slowly disappeared beyond the horizon, the entire coast seemed to glow with peace. Wildflowers danced in the warm breeze, birds sang their final songs before nightfall, and butterflies floated gently from flower to flower, as if the world itself had forgotten what fear was. But not every creature shared that peaceful life. On a lonely rock near the edge of the cliff lived a scorpion. He watched the sunsets every evening from the same place. Not because he loved them, but because no one else wanted to be near him. Every animal that saw him immediately turned away. The rabbits warned their children. The birds changed direction. Even the insects flew around him, careful not to come too close. They never asked who he was. They only saw what he carried behind him. A sharp tail filled with venom. And to them, that was enough. Over time, the scorpion stopped trying to explain himself. He accepted the silence. He accepted the loneliness. Perhaps he truly was the monster everyone believed him to be. Sometimes he wondered what it felt like to have a friend, to laugh, to trust someone, to belong somewhere. But those thoughts disappeared as quickly as they came, because reality always reminded him of the same painful truth. No one will ever come close to me. One quiet evening, while the sky burned with shades of orange and gold, something unusual happened. A butterfly drifted through the air, carried by the gentle ocean breeze. She wasn't searching for anything. She simply loved discovering beautiful places before the sun went down. As she floated closer to the cliff, she noticed the lonely figure sitting on the rock. She landed softly on a nearby flower and observed him. The scorpion didn't move. He didn't raise his tail. He didn't even look at her. He simply stared at the horizon, as though he had been waiting for the sunset his entire life. The butterfly looked around. There were hundreds of flowers, countless trees, an endless sky. Yet somehow, the loneliest thing she had ever seen wasn't the empty cliff. It was the creature sitting alone upon it. She smiled gently. Instead of flying away like everyone else, she flew closer, closer than anyone had ever dared. The scorpion noticed the quiet sound of wings. Slowly, he turned his head. His heart froze. The butterfly was standing only inches away. Instinctively, he stepped backward. "You should leave," he said quietly. "I'm dangerous." But the butterfly didn't move. Instead, she smiled. "I don't think you are." The scorpion looked at her in complete disbelief. No one had ever said those words to him before. For the first time in many years, someone had looked beyond his sting and tried to see his heart. The butterfly remained exactly where she was. The scorpion couldn't understand it. Every creature he had ever met had only two reactions. They either ran or attacked. But this tiny butterfly did neither. She simply smiled, as if she couldn't see the danger everyone else feared. "You don't understand," the scorpion said, lowering his eyes. "My tail carries poison. It's what I am." The butterfly gently shook her head. "No, it's something you have. It isn't who you are." Those words echoed inside the scorpion's mind. No one had ever separated him from his sting. To everyone else, the sting was his identity. For the first time, someone believed there was another part of him hidden beneath years of fear and loneliness. The butterfly looked toward the glowing horizon. "Would you like to watch the sunset with me?" The scorpion almost laughed. "I've watched every sunset alone." "Then tonight," she replied softly, "you won't." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The sea whispered against the rocks below. The wind carried the scent of wildflowers across the cliff. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. It felt peaceful. When darkness finally covered the sky, the butterfly stood. "I'll come back tomorrow." The scorpion frowned. "No, you won't. Everyone says that." She smiled. "Then tomorrow, I'll prove everyone wrong." Before he could answer, she lifted herself into the air and disappeared among the stars. The scorpion remained on the cliff long after she was gone. For the first time in years. He wasn't thinking about what everyone hated about him. He was thinking about someone who had chosen to stay. The next morning, he arrived at the cliff before sunrise. He told himself he wasn't waiting. Yet his eyes searched every corner of the sky. Hours passed. The sun climbed higher. The breeze grew warmer. Then, he saw her. The butterfly danced through the air exactly as she had promised. "You came," he whispered. "I said I would." From that day on, they met every evening. The butterfly showed him places he had never dared to visit. Fields covered in colorful flowers. Crystal clear streams where dragonflies skimmed the surface. Old trees whose branches reached toward the clouds. She introduced him to the beauty he had ignored his entire life. The scorpion had always walked with his eyes fixed on the ground. Not because he didn't love the world, but because he believed he wasn't welcome in it. The butterfly changed that. She laughed often. She admired tiny flowers most creatures never noticed. She greeted every sunrise as if it were a miracle. Little by little, her way of seeing the world began to change him. The scorpion started noticing things he had never seen before. The warmth of sunlight on cold mornings. The sound of waves calming his thoughts. The colors painted across the evening sky. For the first time, life felt bigger than fear. But there was one thing he could never forget. Every time the butterfly landed beside him, he quietly curled his tail behind his body, far away from her, as if hiding the part of himself he feared the most. One evening, the butterfly noticed, "You always hide your tail." The scorpion looked away. "I'm afraid." "Of what?" "That one day, I'll become exactly what everyone believes I am." The butterfly stepped closer. "So keep choosing who you want to be. Every single day." The scorpion stared into the sunset. For the first time in his life, he believed that maybe, just maybe, even a creature born with poison could still learn kindness. As the days turned into weeks, something extraordinary began to happen. The other animals noticed the butterfly. Every evening, while they hurried home before sunset, she flew toward the lonely cliff where the scorpion waited. They whispered among themselves, "She's making a terrible mistake. One day he'll hurt her. It's only a matter of time." The butterfly heard every word, but she never changed her path. One evening, as they watched the sun disappear beyond the sea, the scorpion broke the silence. "Do they ever tell you to stay away from me?" The butterfly smiled. "Every day. And yet, you still come." "I do." "Why?" She looked at him for a long moment. "Because everyone sees your tail. I wanted to know your heart." The scorpion lowered his eyes. No one had ever spoken to him that way. His entire life had been defined by fear. Every creature expected the worst from him. Eventually, he had started expecting it from himself. "I wish I had been born different," he whispered. "I wish I didn't have this sting." The butterfly gently shook her head. "The sting isn't your greatest problem." He looked confused. "What is?" "The fact that you've spent your whole life believing it's the only thing that defines you." Those words stayed with him. For the first time, he wondered whether his greatest prison had never been his tail, but the shame he carried because of it. That night, they sat beneath the stars longer than usual. The butterfly spoke about distant valleys she wanted to visit one day. She dreamed of flying above mountains, of seeing waterfalls hidden deep inside forests. She laughed as she imagined all the places still waiting to be discovered. The scorpion listened quietly. "I wish I could see those places with you." "You can." He smiled sadly. "I can't fly." "No," she replied. "But you can walk. And I'll fly slowly." The scorpion laughed for the first time in many years. A real laugh. One that echoed across the cliffs. As midnight approached, the butterfly grew tired. She rested beside him, folding her delicate wings. The scorpion stayed perfectly still. He was afraid to move. Afraid even to breathe too deeply. He watched over her while she slept. For the first time, someone trusted him completely. And he silently promised himself, I will never hurt her. But life has a cruel way of testing the promises we make. Just before dawn, a loud crack echoed through the valley. A large branch broke from the old tree above them. Instinct took over. Without thinking, the scorpion spun around to protect himself. His tail moved faster than his mind. For a single terrible second, everything became silent. Then, the butterfly cried out. She fell gently onto the ground. The scorpion froze. His heart stopped. No. His voice trembled. No, no, please. His tail had struck her. Not from anger. Not from hatred. Not because he wanted to. Only because instinct had acted before love had the chance. The butterfly looked at him. Pain filled her eyes. But there was no anger. Only sadness. The scorpion stepped backward in horror. I told you. I told you to stay away from me. I'm exactly what everyone said I was. Tears rolled down his face. He had spent his whole life trying to prove the world wrong. And in one terrible moment, he believed he had proven them right. The butterfly struggled to stand. She looked at him with kindness that somehow hurt even more than the sting itself. Softly, almost in a whisper, she said, No, you are not your worst moment. The scorpion looked at her, unable to speak. But I hurt you. Yes, she answered gently. You did. But hurting someone doesn't always mean you wanted to. The morning sun slowly rose above the sea. Neither of them noticed. For both of them, a different kind of storm had just begun. The first rays of morning sunlight touched the cliffs. The sea was calm. The birds began singing as though nothing had happened. But for the butterfly and the scorpion, everything had changed. The butterfly slowly stood. One of her wings trembled. The sting had weakened her, but she was still alive. The scorpion couldn't even look at her. His eyes remained fixed on the ground. I should leave, he whispered. I don't deserve your forgiveness. The butterfly took a slow step toward him. Maybe you don't need my forgiveness. He looked up, confused. What you need is to forgive yourself. The scorpion shook his head. How can I? I promised I would never hurt you. And I failed. The butterfly smiled sadly. No, you failed to control your instinct. But you never stopped caring. There is a difference. The scorpion remained silent. For years, he had believed that one mistake could define an entire life. Now, for the first time, someone was showing him another possibility. Days passed. The butterfly returned to the cliff. Not every day. Her wing needed time to heal. Some days she could barely fly. The scorpion waited patiently, never expecting her to come back. Whenever she appeared on the horizon, his heart filled with both joy and guilt. One evening he finally asked, Why do you still come? The butterfly looked toward the sea before answering. Because kindness doesn't disappear after one painful moment. But she paused. Kindness also knows when it must protect itself. The scorpion listened carefully. I care about you. I always will. But I can't stay close enough to be hurt again. Those words were gentle, yet they carried a truth deeper than any wound. Love, without wisdom, can become suffering. Compassion, without boundaries, can slowly destroy the one who gives it. The butterfly stepped back. Not because she hated the scorpion. Not because she feared him. But because she finally understood that loving someone doesn't always mean remaining beside them. Sometimes, love means hoping they heal. From a safe distance. The seasons changed. Months became years. The butterfly continued exploring the valleys, forests, and mountains she had always dreamed of seeing. Her wing healed. The scar remained, not as a reminder of pain, but as a reminder of wisdom. The scorpion stayed near the cliffs, but he was no longer the lonely creature everyone feared. The butterfly's friendship had changed him forever. He became quieter, kinder, more patient. When frightened animals crossed his path, he no longer chased them away. He simply moved aside. Slowly, the forest began noticing. The rabbits stopped running. The birds landed a little closer. Even the young foxes became curious. Not because the scorpion had lost his sting, but because he had learned to master it. Years later, the butterfly returned one final time. The cliff looked exactly the same. The sunsets were just as beautiful. The waves still whispered against the rocks. The old scorpion smiled as she landed nearby. "You were right," he said softly. "People can change." The butterfly smiled. "Only if they choose to." They watched the sunset together one last time. Not as two creatures trying to save one another, but as two souls forever changed by a friendship that had taught them life's hardest lesson. As darkness covered the sea, the butterfly spread her wings. Before leaving, she turned back and said, "Never believe that your mistakes are your identity. But never believe that love requires you to ignore your wounds." Then she flew toward the horizon, until she became nothing more than a tiny silhouette against the evening sky. The scorpion remained on the cliff, watching until she disappeared. He no longer felt alone, because she had left him something far greater than her presence. She had left him hope, and hope was enough. The end. Kindness should never cost you your peace. Love can forgive, compassion can understand, but wisdom knows when it's time to let go. The strongest hearts are not the ones that never break, they are the ones that remain kind without forgetting to protect themselves.